appreciate this. We'll start with Lorie. Is that all right? Okay.
Sure.
And,
yeah, we are on kind of a tight schedule, so but it's terrific to be here. So I'm Lorie Masters, and I'm running for Attorney General. So you know, I have literature. I can talk about my qualifications, but I think what we're really here to talk about is these issues that you're raising. So so this is my perspective. You know, I can't say that I'm an expert on all of these things, but I would want to, as your Attorney General, listen to the community and really go out into the community and listen to these concerns. So a core function of the Attorney General, or any Attorney General, should be fair and effective enforcement of all of our rules and regulations. And I hear around the city as I go through my campaigning, and also here today, that there's a lot of concerns, particularly with these big developments, that we are not getting input into the process from the community, and the rules that we have in place are really not being followed.
Hear, hear.
So, well, rules and laws. I mean, so if we're dealing with development of city assets in particular, right? That could be property, whatever it might be. We have processes in place that should be followed, government contracting processes, and those are not being followed. And we need to make sure that we are taking this office in an era where we have now, or will have, come January 2nd, an independent Attorney General who's accountable to you, not accountable to the mayor, not appointed by the mayor, and not accountable to the council. So we really need to make sure that we're looking at that and having someone in that office who's independent of the powers that be. So this is my pitch to you all in this room. This is a historic election because it's our first election, but it's also critically important for the District of Columbia. And from my perspective, that means we need to have someone who's not part of the business as usual crowd, someone who's not tied in to the powers that be, to law firms, with respect to one of my opponents, who have a lot of business before the council and have other issues that might call into question whether that person's going to be the person that I, as an ordinary citizen, want in this position. It's part of the reason why I ran. I want somebody independent who can say no. And if you have the old connections, if you work for a law firm that has millions of dollars of contracts with the city, I just question whether that's what we want. It's not what I want, and it's not, it is why I ran for this position. So with regard to these issues that you're talking about, I'm no expert on this. I mean, I've read the stuff that Chris sent to me, but with this is what I would want to do. I would want to sit down with you all and other groups throughout the city and hear what the issues are. Because in this new era, we should have an Attorney General who's responsive to the people and who knows what the concerns are. So I would need to be educated on these issues. I know what I know at this point, but this is what I would say. I took a few notes just driving down here from a beautiful day canvassing in one of our neighborhoods. You know, I know from talking to people in Ward 7 that Berry Farms and Wheeler Road are huge issues. I know from talking to people in Ward 5 that McMillan Park is a huge issue. And I know from talking to people in Noma that all the development there is a huge issue. And people universally seem to feel that their input is not either being solicited, or if it is solicited, it's not taken into account as part of the process. And that's not right, and it's not fair, and it's not what we should have in this city. So I think also it's just not a question, it's a question of bad governance. It's not, we need good governance. That's what this job should be about, fair and effective enforcement of all of our laws and transparency. So I just want to make sure I'm hitting all my points here. You know, I know there's a question with McMillan Park on the comprehensive plans. We need to be listening to the interests of all of the neighbors in Berry Farm, in Ward 5, with regard to these developments. We need to make sure that we are following the processes that are in place. And if there are these issues about community amenities, and how are those being negotiated or bargained? We need to look at that. And if they're not being used properly, in other words, if they're being used as a way to try to get something that maybe otherwise through a wholly transparent process you wouldn't get otherwise, then that's not right, and an Attorney General should call for that to stop. And then once there are these agreements with neighborhoods, they need to be enforced. a lot of times, right? I mean, so this is the thing though, folks. I want to be really frank with you. The Attorney General is not going to solve all these problems overnight, but what you need is somebody who can call them out and say, this is what needs to happen. And that's what I want to do if I'm elected your Attorney General, because these things are too important to the future of our city to be used as bargaining chips in some kind of process that's not fair and transparent. So that's really what needs to happen. But I also want to make the pitch that, you know, you need to talk to all your friends and neighbors about this, because otherwise I really fear we're going to have someone who's not going to be responsive to the people, or there's a question about whether that's going to happen because there are too many ties to the powers that be. So that's what the issue is. And I'm not certain that message has really gotten out in this election. Maybe it's our candidate, my fault as a candidate, but you know, look, it's an education process. I've learned a lot, and I've really thought it was a terrific opportunity for me to go around the city and see places that I probably never would have spent time in. And I think that's great, but now I realize exactly, or I have a better, maybe not exactly, I have a better understanding of what's going on. And I think it's really important that that message get out there, that this is a crucial election, and it's an election because it's not simply about the qualifications of the candidates and their positions, because on some of these things our positions don't seem to be that different. But the difference is, do you want someone who's truly independent, or do you want someone who's been associated with the business as usual crowd? That's what the issue is. That's what I want to message this last week in the campaign. And I fear that that message hasn't really gotten out to the community. So if you all have contacts, if you feel strongly about this stuff, that's the message that needs to get out this week.
Lorie Masters.